You know that feeling, right? When you see a quiet child, maybe one who's just totally lost in their own little world, and you get this little pang of worry. It's a really common thing. Our culture has this subtle pressure that basically says to be happy, you've got to be loud, you've got to be outgoing, always smiling. So let's dive into why we feel that way and what we might be missing about the incredibly rich inner lives of introverted kids. So yeah, that's the big question we're going to tackle here. What is it about a quiet, thoughtful kid that can make us adults, parents, teachers, you name it, so deeply uncomfortable? What's the fear that's really hiding under the surface?
Okay, so the first piece of this puzzle is this idea that we can call the performance of okayness. It's this subtle, usually unspoken pressure that we put on kids to look happy, not really for themselves, but to make the adults around them feel comfortable.
This quote from writer Jacqueline Desforges, man, it just nails it. She talks about being just 5 years old when her dad asked her why she never smiled. And right then, she started to learn this huge lesson. Her smile wasn't for her, it was to manage her dad's feelings. So let's break this down. This idea of okayness, it isn't about actually being okay. It's all about the performance of it. And what that does is it turns a kid's emotional state into a kind of service they have to provide for adults just to soothe our anxiety. And that is a huge, unspoken burden to put on a child. And this pressure, it builds into something way deeper, something you could almost call an existential fear for parents. So why does this adult anxiety even exist? Well, a lot of the time, it comes from this deep-seated belief that a child's quietness is a sign of your own failure as a parent. I mean, think about it. When we picture a happy kid, what pops into your head? It's usually the one who's the center of attention, cracking jokes, the first one to jump into the sack race. These really visible, extroverted behaviors have become our cultural shorthand for everything is fine here. So a quiet child, well, they kind of mess with that signal. And this quote, wow, it really gets to the heart of that parental fear. It's the absolute terror that you as a parent have somehow failed. That despite everything you've done, your child is unhappy. And a quiet, unsmiling face can feel like proof of that failure, which is just an incredibly painful thing to face. So obviously, pressuring a kid to perform okayness isn't the answer. It's not healthy for anyone. So what do we do instead? How do we actually support our quiet kids for exactly who they are? Well, there's this wonderful story about a little girl named Kiara that kind of gives us a roadmap. So this brings us to Kiara's story, and she's described as a whisper in a world of shouts. She's a kindergartner trying to find her way in a world that can feel really loud and overwhelming, a world that just doesn't always know what to do with the quiet ones. Now, this is the most important thing to get about Kiara. She's not unhappy. She's not painfully lonely. She's just an introvert, perfectly content in her own rich internal world. But to everyone on the outside, her quietness looks like a problem that needs to be solved. And then, one day, her quiet world gets this little interruption. On her way home from school, she finds this tiny, shivering kitten. And without a second thought, she just scoops it up, tucks it into her shirt, and decides she's going to protect it. This one little secret ends up being the catalyst for this huge transformation. And what's amazing is that it wasn't a teacher or a parent who forced this change. It was a tiny orange kitten and the sense of responsibility that came with it. So at home, Kiara creates this secret little world for the kitten inside her closet. She feeds him, she plays with him, she takes care of him, all on her own. And this secret isn't about being defiant. It's born out of this deep affection and a brand new sense of purpose. And look at how this all unfolds. The simple act of caring for this little creature builds this quiet confidence inside her. And it starts to seep out, first in her drawings at school, and then in her voice. When another girl tries to take her crayons, Kiara, who was always a whisper, says clear as day, "Those are mine." She even starts sharing little stories about her day with her parents. So the moment of truth comes when her mom finds this secret world in the closet. But instead of shrinking back like you might expect, Kiara actually stands her ground. Her voice is steady. It's this mix of fear, but also this newfound strength. She's not just a passive observer anymore. She's a protector. Kiara's story really gives us the perfect lens to look at the real takeaway here. It's all about learning to see and to value a totally different kind of happiness.
So on one hand, you have the expected happiness that we're all conditioned to look for. But Kiara's story shows us the power of quiet happiness, that deep joy you find when you're totally absorbed in something, like getting lost in a creative project or caring for a pet. One isn't better than the other. They're just different ways of showing a thriving inner life. And this part is so, so important. Kiara's parents could have gotten mad about the whole secret kitten thing, but they didn't. They chose to understand. They saw the kitten not as a problem, but as the reason for their daughter's beautiful, quiet blossoming. And by helping her name him Tangerine, they validated her whole experience. And the story gets even better. Because her family accepted her, Kiara uses that new confidence to connect with another quiet girl at school. She actually reaches out, shares her secret, and finds out this other girl has a kitten too. So her introversion was never a barrier to friendship. She just needed the confidence to connect on her own terms.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. The goal isn't to turn introverts into extroverts. The real goal is to stop demanding that performance of okayness and instead just get better at observing. We need to start looking for the signs of quiet thriving, that focused project, the gentle way they care for a pet, the rich world they're building in their imagination.
And ultimately, this is what it's all about. A world where a child, or really anyone, doesn't have to force a smile just to manage our feelings. It's about a way of being that's honest, that's real, and that respects that there are so many different, beautiful ways to be human. Just think, what might change if we all learn to recognize quiet happiness when we see it?